Today, I'm here for the Niagara market update with Kayla Smith. Kayla, what's going on in Niagara today?
Lots of interesting stuff, but mostly prices trending up, even with inventory trending up. So it's very interesting to watch. Okay, this slide looks very underwhelming, but it is very important. So there are a bunch of grants and programs that investors and business owners can tap into to alleviate some of the costs that we incur across the board. The facade improvement grant, where they will match the cost that you put in up to $10,000. And if it's a heritage building, it's up to $15,000. Tax incremental financing grants. The city will rebate what the tax will be once on completion to you in many different ways. And if you're introducing affordable housing, these get, obviously there's a big push for that right now, these get much higher.
All right, welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam J.D. Martin, your host, and today I'm here for the Niagara market update with Kayla Smith. Kayla, what's going on in Niagara today?
Lots of interesting stuff, but mostly prices trending up, even with inventory trending up. So it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, that market update you just gave us, that's back on the stats update there, was pretty interesting because you guys have a lot of new listings. There was like 900 plus new listings, but then also we saw the price going up about 10%. So that's actually a really fascinating stat for me. So I'm really interested to hear what you think the so what is there and sort of why that might be happening.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people getting priced out of the GTA again. We're seeing a lot of GTA buyers come back. I don't know, like the news is obviously there's multiple offers in the GTA, even on these like multi-million-dollar houses. You can't get even a single family. So like a semi-detached is going for 1.2, 1.3, and it needs a decent amount of work. 1.3 here buys you like a beautiful house in the nicest neighborhood. So I think it has a lot to do with that. Investors are back and at all levels, I'm finding. Yeah, so I think it's a combination of things, but it's very interesting for sure.
Yeah, for context, like I literally was just in Toronto the other day and I was walking by, I was walking on Queen Street and I noticed a loft that had a for sale thing. And I was like, oh, I wonder what like that little condo is going to be worth. And it was actually, and this was staggering because I've never paid that much attention to the GTA, but it was $800 a square foot.
Yeah.
And it was $1.3 million for this little condo. And I was like, oh yeah, right. We're not living in reality here. That's insane. So yeah, I totally hear you when you're like, you could literally buy the best house you've ever thought of in the best neighborhood for
So
1.3. Nice. So like, it's really fascinating to think about that. I've never thought about $800 a square foot before. Like that's like not even a reality for me. So like, that's really fascinating. And I think that's good insight too.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what we're going to talk about. If you saw the market update, you know this, but we're going to do an update on some news that I shared in a previous month. I'm going to tell you how to put some money back in your pocket as an investor. If you're anything like me, you're getting slammed by taxes right now in all ways. So this is very helpful and very timely. And we're also going to go into some deals as we always do.
Awesome.
All right. So I talked about the State of the Region address, how it's a great event if you invest, live, or are even interested in the Niagara region. It's kind of all the major players from builders to businesses to government at all levels are there. And many takeaways from this, but the one that I did want to focus on the most, and I'm just going to read what it says. It is no secret that this provincial government has been clear that their objectives to make government effective and efficient and to increase the housing supply. Again, regardless of where you stand on that, Bradley said, to this end, I am pleased to share the first major initiative identified by Niagara's 12 local communities for exploration was an opportunity to streamline and consolidate municipal building services across the region. Once completed, this initiative will reduce the time it takes to get building permits approved and expedite shovels getting into the ground. So if you're an investor in the Niagara region and you've ever worked with Some of the cities are much better than others, but if you're at the point like we've been where you record your inspectors when they're talking because you get mixed reviews depending on where you are, this is good news. Is it going to take a long time? Probably. But it is at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, when you use the word streamline, right, that means to me standardization, which means
Yes.
predictability, which
Yes.
means reliability, which means speed, which means reduced cost.
Yeah.
So like I love all of those things.
Yes, same. So, and this is what they've identified as top of their agenda for everything that was discussed here. So I think that this is a good thing. Again, it'll probably be a bit before we see, any of these changes come to fruition. However, I know there's a lot of people in the Niagara region, especially, that avoid certain cities because of their building departments, specifically when it comes to investing. Hopefully, this will alleviate some of that. So I wanted to share this with everyone. It seems to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah, that's fantastic update. Thank you, Kayla.
Yeah, of course. So Thorold South, if you're an investor that's ever worked with me and you have asked me about investing in Thorold, first, I live here. I'm a little bit biased, but I live in the other side of Thorold. A lot of what we do is in Thorold. This area of Thorold is known to be a bit more industrial. So, but there is this whole area over here is all new. What they have done, there's been an application to change this from light industrial to res. And they're going to do exactly what they did over here. So as more houses are built in this area, there will be more facilities, your grocery stores, more. That's why I don't love Thorold South from an investment standpoint, just because you're pretty landlocked unless you drive. There's not too much around there, but as this stuff is approved, which hopefully it will be, and they build, it's also coming with commercial spaces, with open spaces, community spaces. So I think this is Thorold South trending in the right direction if this is approved. So I just wanted to give everybody kind of an idea of what's happening at the city council meetings, if you don't bore yourself with the agendas like I do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And again, that's why we came here today, right? We want to show up and get the news that you're going to invest time in, so that we as investors and as viewers of the Canadian Real Estate Channel, we can just jump in, learn something, and get on with our actual projects that we have on the go. So thank you.
Yeah, so that's just Thorold South in a nutshell. Okay, this slide looks very underwhelming, but it is very important. So there are a bunch of grants and programs that investors and business owners, sometimes those two things go hand in hand, can tap into to alleviate some of the costs that we incur across the board. So St. Catharines and Welland and most of the cities in the Niagara region have this, but the facade improvement grant. So if you're like me and you own a building downtown St. Catharines, or there's a few other areas that have been identified, and you want to make some aesthetic changes to the exterior of your building, there is a program with the city of St. Catharines and it will fund a bunch of different things, hard landscaping, like murals, canopies, like all sorts of different things. Your front porch, your garden, where they will match the cost that you put in up to $10,000. So pretty substantial. If I'm going to pay $20,000 for something to happen on or around my building, I would love for them to kick in $10,000. That's a pretty substantial amount. And if it's a heritage building, it's up to $15,000. So that's one. Tax incremental financing grants. Again, this is across the board. Every city basically has them. This is if you're doing like a massive development project. The city will rebate what the tax will be once on completion to you in many different ways. There's brownfield, there's a bunch of different tax grants, but it's definitely something to look into if you're getting into those bigger developments. And if you're introducing affordable housing, these get, obviously there's a big push for that right now, these get much higher. So that's St. Catharines. Welland. So Welland has an entire community improvement plan, which has about 6 different grants in it. Again, a lot of push for affordable housing, but also just if you're like a single family homeowner and you're adding like an ADU or you're doing a duplex conversion, there's some grants in there for you. They have these big tax incremental financing grants as well as the facade. They have a big downtown one. Like Welland's downtown is, in my opinion, the most underutilized space in all of the Niagara region. They have the canal that runs right there. They have bridges, they have like waterfront, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't picked up in the same way that others have. So I'm very hopeful for that. It's starting to, but it still needs some love. This one I thought was kind of funny, but it's also very pertinent because I've seen a lot of questions asking about rodent control referrals in the investor groups. So there is a rodent control rebate program in Welland.
Wow.
If your property has rodents, which obviously many unfortunately do, there's a process you have to go to, but it's not too overwhelming. And the government will just, or I guess the city of Welland will kick you back $200 of your costs. And all it takes is, as far as I understand, like a quick phone call, maybe one piece of paper that needs to be filled out. They come out, they look, and then you get your money. So there's a bunch of different ones in all of the cities. There's like the downtown digital, if you own a business, up to $5,000, I believe. But I just wanted to point these out because I feel like they're highly underutilized. I went through like the approvals in recent years, and there's not that many. So there's a lot more funding there.
Yeah, that's
I'm going
awesome.
to go to the training grants and programs after, but I figure we'll talk about these first.
Yeah, I actually think that's fantastic to bring this up because, like, you know, as a landlord, and you know this too, like you just get busy, right?
Yeah.
And like you don't think about these things. And certainly I'm not spending a lot of time researching these. So it's great. And like this building I'm sitting in too, like I only found out that there was a facade improvement grant in my city because somebody told me. They were like, hey, like, you know, first of all, your building looks terrible. Second of all, the city will help you pay for that. And I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. So thank you for sharing that here. That might save somebody some time.
Yeah. So in my previous life, when I worked for the government, I used to like approve and work with different agencies on this stuff, mostly on the training side. So I'll get into that. So I was an employment training consultant. I used to approve these applications. I'm going to focus a bit on the Canada Ontario job grant. So there's a lot of investors that are business owners, even if it's just in their investment business. They're incorporated, they're business owners, they hire people. Canada Ontario job grant allows you to send an employee for training for, if you're 25 employees or less, you only have to pay for 1/6 of the cost. So they pay for the rest. And it's a cumbersome application. But there's agencies that will help you fill it out. And like I had mentioned about taxes, like government's in debt recovery, so everyone's getting reassessed. But let's say you wanted to hire a bookkeeper and keep them, you know, they're on your salary. You can send them for a bookkeeping course, pay very, very little for it, and you have someone who's fully trained and knows exactly what they're doing as a result of it. So there's that. The other thing about the Canada Ontario job grant is that you can do this more than once. So let's say, I don't know, you're a flipper and you're hiring a social media manager, or you're an investor, whatever it is. You can send someone for a social media course potentially, and you have someone that comes back and knows exactly what they're doing. And this isn't the only one. This is just one of my favorites right now. One that I'll be applying for my business. There's also the skills accelerated fund or accelerated skills funds if you own a bigger business, because then you can hire or train 25, 30 XYZ people at a time. And I'm wanting to also just put people's focus back on apprenticeship. I work with a lot of tradespeople, and they're saying it's not worth the time to bring on an apprentice. It's not, you know, it's tough. People don't want to work. But there's a massive skill shortage right now. And there's a lot of good apprentices out there. I used to work with them, and you do get paid for training these people. And the last one I'll touch on, and if anyone wants like the links or advice on these programs, reach out. I'm happy to help with that too. I don't work there anymore, but I used to, so I can at least guide you in the right direction. There's a summer program. The federal one has closed, but they would have paid the majority of a salary for a summer student. But the provincial one is still available. So reach out to your Employment Ontario people. And last but not least, reach out to your high schools and get a co-op student. We have a co-op student right now, and I'm telling you, she is like A++++++. She's like my favorite person in the world, and she's so smart, and she does such a wonderful job, and it's at no cost to the business.
That's awesome.
So just ways to put money back in people's pockets. I know everyone could use a little bit right now. We're all, you know, investing. So all of this stuff, I think, is a great way to do that.
That's great. Thank you, Kayla. That's great insight.
No problem. All right. On to the deals as always. This one is kind of out of the box thinking, but the reason I wanted to bring it up is because there is unique financing for owner occupied commercial residential mixed use. So the zoning would allow for mixed use. That's probably what I would go, like the direction I would go in. It's been up for 38 days. So is there some room for negotiations? Maybe. The reason why I like this property is because let's say you are I don't know, massage therapist, or you run like a beauty something or other. It's zoned for many things, but Meridian has a program that you can get 100% loan to value if it's owner occupied up to a certain amount of space. If that's you, this could be a really neat building for you.
That's crazy. 100% financing if it's mixed use.
If it's personal use, if you
Okay.
use it, like you walk. So
Yeah.
let's say you have an office in here and then the upstairs is a rental.
Right.
There's potential for them to finance that at 100% loan to value.
Wow. That's really crazy, Kayla.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. So it's through Meridian. It's called the Cool Program. And it is pretty cool.
I mean, it sounds cool.
Yeah. Bad jokes. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that to anyone's attention that maybe does have a business that needs a space. This isn't a great area. It's very close to like the main downtown strip in St. Catharines, but it's also on a really lovely street. It's close to Montebello Park, if you're familiar with Grape and Wine Festival. So yeah, it's not necessarily like a knock it out of the park investment otherwise, but if you have that opportunity for 100% loan to value, in my opinion, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we always talk about that. It's price or terms, right? And that's a fun set of terms if you can get in with no cash down.
So that's that one. This one is depending on your appetite for being in a neighborhood that's not super desirable. So it's a fully renovated triplex. It is legal. It's vacant for $599. And again, maybe there's some room there, maybe there's not. It was just listed. And this is my fault. It's 2 1-beds and 1 cozy bachelor. That's my fault on the side, but regardless, the rental potential here is great. You can still get good tenants in this area. There are major developments happening down the street, but it is considered what would be one of the worst areas of St. Catharines. But I have investors that love that. They have an appetite for waiting in terms of equity because it's going to change over time, as areas always do. And this could be worth a lot more down the road. And you just cash flow and wait for it to happen.
Yeah. And what did we just like off the cuff think rents could be here? Because it is vacant, you said. So are we thinking like 4,200, 4,500, possibly more? Or is that about
I would say for the 1-beds, I mean, we're seeing anywhere from 14 to 1,600.
Yeah.
And the bachelor, 1,000 to 1,200, just depending.
Yep. Okay. So about that like 4,500-ish kind of ballpark. That's great.
Yeah. So again, it's all depending on appetite for these types of properties, but this one does exist. It was just listed and the price is decently fair for a triplex. Here's the one, Adam. I was inspired by you. I went VTB hunting as well.
I love it.
So this is a legal duplex. The main floor is occupied, so it's a 3-bed, and the upstairs is vacant. The main floor is rented for $1,100, which obviously is under rented. Those tenants have been there for quite some time. The 2-bed was rented for $1,900. It's vacant. It's renovated. It's listed for $420.
I was gonna bring it up, so I'm glad you did. The meme pricing's great.
Yeah. So the price is good, and there is a possible vendor take back here. I will say you're beside a bit of an industrial. It's like a car lot to the, I guess if you're standing in front of the house, to the right. But I don't think that's going to be a huge deterrent for a lot of people. Build a fence, can't see it. It's actually, as far as I can tell, I've never been to it, a pretty well-built structure. You can see the upstairs has like a porch. It's a pretty decent sized lot. This one is interesting because on the purchase, it would cash flow. You get the VTB mixed in there, tenant turnover down the road. You do some renos. I do like this one. I've liked it for a while. It's been listed for quite some time. So yeah. And to Adam's point, there's 21 listings in Niagara that have a VTB available. And like when I searched on all of Matrix, it was like 380.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of availability, guys. And every Tuesday I do a live stream show where I go and, we'll pick a theme. Just this past week, my theme was vendor take back hunting, and we found literally hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Right. And so these things are out there. And just like when we're looking at this deal here in Thorold, right, the way that you offer on this is you could make multiple offers that contain different sets of terms, and just never forget that we can always pull on various parts of the mortgage to smooth out cash flow or to increase attractiveness to the seller or to preserve capital. Like there's all sorts of things you can do here.
Yeah.
And so you can play around with the term. You could play around with the actual loan to value, whether that's a big first or a small second. You could play around with the actual interest rate or the price itself on the deal. So there's so much available to you here when somebody says they're willing to do creative financing. You have so much more room to be creative. So I've just encouraged anybody watching this, like if you're thinking about creative financing and you're thinking about how do I get a deal done, there's just so much available to you when somebody's offering it that you can ask for, and the ask itself doesn't cost anything, right?
Yeah.
So try and get creative on this stuff.
And this one is like, obviously this is on the lower price point for a duplex. There was anything from a trailer in a vacation park all the way up to like a 4-unit in Grimsby, and the terms were all like different depending on the percentage of VTV and whatnot, but it does allow, like you said, to be creative across the board. And I think that they're all very interesting. And even if you don't get the necessarily the best price terms, if you can get like a large VTV, there's an argument there. There's a lot happening with these VTV properties. So thank you, Adam, for the inspiration.
Absolutely.
And then I have one more. And the reason that I'm bringing this one up, so it is listed at $299, and obviously that's great. It does need work inside. It's not awful by any means. It just needs cosmetic updates as far as I can tell. But it has new roof, AC and furnace aren't that old. It does have a driveway. It's zoned R2, which does allow you to do 2 units. I don't know if this would be the right property for it, but this is holding offers. The reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I said holding offers is back, and it is, but we don't necessarily know where it's going to go when a property holds offers. Again, we've said it 100 times before. As soon as you saw it was holding offers, you're like, okay, 100, 150 over asking. People aren't necessarily holding offers with those expectations. So even if your budget on this is, I don't know, let's say 305, it's worth trying. Yeah. And when I was away, I had put in 3 offers, and one was in the north end of St. Catharines. It ended up selling at 513. It needed probably 150 worth of work. It was in pretty rough shape, but the exit was about 850. And then one in Thorold, I believe it sold for about 430. Exit on that one was 650, and that was maybe 100,000 worth of work. And then there was one just in Thorold the other day, bungalow, your perfect multi-unit setup, and it sold for, I believe, 475-ish. I can pull that, but it's just dated. Back door down or side door down to the basement. Everything was very solid. Sold in like a minute, of course. It was listed for 524. They took quite a lot under asking. So basically the reason why I pulled this one is just shoot your shot. Right now, shoot your shot. The market's all over the place. So just if you see something and you have numbers that work for you, go with those. If you don't get it, it's fine. And if you do, that's great. Yeah,
I love that. And like action is always better, right? Yeah. Action is always better than sitting on the sidelines forever. So yeah, I'd encourage people the same thing. If your numbers work for you, then, make things happen.
Yeah. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kayla. I really appreciate you coming on. That was a great update. I really appreciate your information on like the updates with grants and things like that, because that's the stuff like people that are coming to our channel, they're coming for that. Like they're coming for information that they otherwise aren't going to spend their time to go get. And here you've curated us a really nice package. So thank you so much, Kayla. And guys, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, because we're doing this every single month. And every month there's new tips, there's new programs, there's new news, and there's new stats for you to come and check out. And Kayla always nails it on bringing us deals as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
Have a great day.